Hey guys, welcome to LoudsCast with TGN.TV. I'm joined by Sam and we're going to be covering the patch notes for 4.2.
Yes indeed guys, so I'm going to be covering most of the PvP aspects of the 4.2 patch notes here, and Adam here is going to take care of the PvE aspects.
Yep, so looking at the general sort of section here, that's where we're sort of going to go from. There's been new daily quests added to the game, and that is starting off with the Regrowth and Molten Front. And basically there's a larger assortment of daily quests which are going to start you off in Hyjal, which means that to do with the plot of the game with the Firelands and that sort of thing, you're basically going to be pushing Ragnaros back. Now there are some great rewards available for this. I believe there is a legendary staff. There's another new quest chain called Elemental Bonds, which is available at level 85, and that is to sort of help Thrall out there. And then of course the most sort of anticipated and talked about thing is Firelands itself, the new raid. Now I've seen a couple of Tally's videos, I've seen the Blizzard podcast on this. It looks awesome. I've got to say, it reminds me of Ulduar back in Wrath of the Lich King. The effort that's just gone into this is amazing. Is it going to be enough attention to hold people until the next content patch? I'm not sure, because there isn't a great deal of bosses in there. It just depends how difficult those bosses are going to be. And the last thing here in the general sort of tab is the new user interface feature, the Dungeon Journal, which has been added to help people out with various boss sort of mechanics and that sort of thing. What do you think of that being added to the game, the Dungeon Journal? Do you think it's going to help you out as a PvPer, maybe going into more sort of raids and stuff, if you would?
Definitely. Me myself, I don't actually like raiding, but it's definitely going to be a little bit interesting having a little bit of both worlds to sort of help PvP out a bit. I know back in the Lich King, actually most people, because the Wrathful weapons were quite hard to get with the arena rating and things like that, people actually use raid weapons all the way up until 2.2k.
Okay, we're going to move on to the classes, the general sort of thing, and I know that Sam's going to have a lot to talk about here, especially with that new healing critical strikes being increased to 2 times the normal heal there. So do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I don't like this change, I have to say. Basically, all critical heals at the minute are upped by 1.5, so say if you heal for 10k, it's going to heal for 15k if it's a critical. Now it's getting completely double, so 10k will turn into 20k. That's quite a significant increase on heals, so I'm guessing you'll see a lot more healers trying to stack crit now. Definitely in PvP, they'll probably be losing a little bit spirit, but they're going to gain a lot more healing power.
Yeah, I mean, from PvE perspective, there's been a couple of guys in my guild already who said they're thinking of now stacking crit just due to this sort of change, really. Just gonna test it out and see if it is more beneficial than, as you say, stacking spirit or that sort of thing. Players are once again free to dance in combat. Okay, right, moving on. Buffs. All classes' abilities which place a buff on a friendly target no longer generate any threat. So that's a nice little change there. I've never actually seen it happen myself when I've been in a pickup group or anything. As with my warrior tank, I've never lost threat due to someone putting a buff on the target. But okay, if people have. And the other big change here is crowd control. So that's going to mean that you're not going to generate any threat now from your crowd control skills such as polymorph. I don't like this as a tank personally, because I enjoy it when a DPS does pull with crowd control and I've got to get the threat straight away and that sort of thing. It makes my job easier, but at the same time it gives me less to sort of do. And the next thing is the pets, and again this is a big change for PvP, right Sam?
Yeah, definitely. Not so much for the mage side of things, because although your mage does have a water bolt, the main thing you're going to get from your pet is the pet Frost Nova, which is used a lot. But for hunters, especially Beast Mastery, it's going to allow you to have a lot more control, because the aggressive pet stance is actually being removed and it's being replaced with assist. So assist, if you set your stance to assist, the pet is actually going to attack the target even if you change targets for more than, say, a few 5 seconds. So it's going to allow you a lot more control, especially for burst when it comes to Beast Mastery hunters. Warlocks is, again, just a little bit more control there.
Okay, and the next thing is spell interrupts here. Now I believe this is going to affect PvP as well.
Definitely, especially for me. If I'm casting Frostfire Bolt, guys, now, it'll actually, because as you know, Frostfire Bolt's a mixture of frost and fire schools. It's going to interrupt both schools, so I'm going to be unable to cast fire and frost spells if this gets interrupted. However, if you still cast Frost Bolt, it's going to just interrupt the frost school only.
Yeah, and now we're going into the stats for tanking. That agility, the base chance for dodge, no matter what agility you stack, will stay a fixed 5%. This means, guys, and I know that Tally has covered this, that hitting the unhittable cap has now become a little bit more difficult because you can't get the 2 items which have your agility stat on them, which obviously would increase your dodge rating by a certain amount. And we've got some general class bug fixes here, nothing really to worry about. Saying that yeah, nothing really there. Okay, so we're gonna go now into a few of the class changes. We know that some other directors have covered the class entirely, but we're just gonna sort of sum up on each class if it's we think it's better for PvP and PvE now, or it's going to suffer from PvP or PvE now. So the first one we're going to take a look at is Death Knights. What are your thoughts on these, if you had a chance to have a look at them?
Death Knights at the minute are pretty overpowered. I'm pretty sure about 99% of players will agree with me. So the main nerf there is, well, Frost Death Knights, I should say, is they're pretty overpowered, and they're getting a little tiny damage nerf from Obliterate, which isn't going to affect them at all that much, but they're getting quite a significant decrease in weapon damage, by 200 weapon damage. And the main one is the heal. There's a glyph called Glyph of Dark Succor, and every time they hit you with a death strike, they're receiving 15% of maximum health, and that is a huge heal just for a melee class to keep spamming that, because it has a cooldown in conjunction with runes, but now it's been redesigned to act a little bit like Victory Rush. So if you kill an enemy in PvP, for the next 15 seconds, if you use Death Strike, it'll heal 20%. So this is definitely going to balance out a little bit the Frost DKs, and Unholy DKs are getting a huge strength increase by 15%, so it's probably going to promote Unholy PvP in the next patch.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from a PvE standpoint, one of the things I notice, now this might be different on your realms, but I notice very few Death Knight tanks, and I'm amazed that Blizzard hasn't done more to inspire more Death Knights to give the Blood Tree a go and to start tanking. There's just nothing in there for Blood that I can sort of see, and that's a bit of a shame, because I actually quite like tanking with a Death Knight tank, because like you say, the self-healing and all that sort of thing, and they're very good AoE tankers as well. So it's a bit disappointing in my mind that they've not done anything there. As for DPS, Death Knight DPS is already pretty damn good, especially if the person knows what they're doing, and I think we're just going to see a bit of an increase on that. So I'm going to talk about a class I know is nothing about now, and that is Druids. So from a PvP perspective, what can you sort of make of this?
Well, at the moment, Druids are pretty decent in PvP. I do have trouble with Druids myself, and the Fel Druids look like they're receiving a lot of buffs here, especially to sort of single hitting abilities such as Ravage and Mangle. Looks like their dots are getting a little tiny nerf there, which, you know, I can see why, because they do hit quite a lot. But I think they're going to try and make Feral Druids a little bit more like rogues with their initial single hitting abilities. Not much else I can see there.
Yeah, unfortunately, guys, I don't want to bring out false information or anything like that, so I know Hengist has done a lot of coverage on the Druid, so we're going to move on to the next class here, and that again is a class I know very little about, and that is Hunters. What have you got to say on?
Well, the first change there, multi-shots being nerfed, but that's not going to affect PvP that much. Traps now scale with stats such as hits, expertise, spell penetration, attack power. So basically, some of these stats can negate some of the traps, and it looks like Marksman's not really getting changed at all. There's only one change there to Marksmanship. Nice little critical strike buff there, and looks like survival's getting promoted a little tiny bit this patch, because I don't see a lot of survival hunters in PvP at all, to be honest. So black arrow damage has had a massive increase by 40%. You might see a little more survival hunters running around this next patch.
Yeah, I mean, from a PvE perspective, one thing they have added is that there's 10 new rare tameable pets, which are going to provide you with challenges. I'm not sure what these challenges will take, whether it's just going to be you dying lots, so there's going to actually be a bit of a quest involved to get them, and I'm presuming that you would have to be Beastmaster spec to actually tame those, but there's no confirmation on that as of the minute. So next we are looking at the class that you play, which is a Mage, I believe.
Yeah, I know everyone knows that frost mages are overpowered. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna lie about it. They are overpowered, and it doesn't look like Blizzard have done a lot to sort of fix that problem. So frost mage is gonna have a nice patch again. There's only a little tiny diminishing returns fixed there, but again, it's not going to affect us drastically. Fire's got a little buff there. Arcane Blast is being reduced to the smallest amount, so Blizzard definitely favour mages as the next patch.
I completely agree. In 4.1, the arcane buffs were ridiculous. You saw so many mages, PvE wise, going arcane, and it just made sense to the DPS they were throwing off in raids and the heroics was absolutely insane, and it still is. And I'm not sure if that 5%
it's not going to be enough.
reduction is really going to do a lot. I think they've had to do something, but they didn't want to. You know, that's what it is.
I just reckon all the Blizzard developers play mages. They don't want to nerf their own class.
Well, in Wrath of the Lich King they play paladins. So I don't think it. I mean, there's a lot of arcane mages out there. We've got a couple in our guild, you know, that we raid with, and I think they are going to just stay arcane, just because it's such a simple rotation.
Yes.
They can always get out the fire. You know, they don't have any problems with like boss strategy or anything, mechanics or anything, just because it's so easy for them to move and that sort of thing. So not a lot on the PvE side I can really say, apart from Living Bomb will only spread to 2 additional targets now. How many was that originally? Was it sort of everything?
It was just the same. They've just changed the mechanic in the way it spreads. It used to spread to 2 nearby targets. Sorry, if you've already got Living Bomb spreading a target, it would just take it off. Now it's going to take it off those targets that are, you know, far away or whatever, and it's going to spread it to the 2 additional targets instead of keeping it on all of them. So yeah, I think you're right. It's a little bit of a nerf. It's going to keep it on 2 targets now instead of letting your old Living Bombs stay on your older targets. It's a little bit confusing. It's hard to explain.
Yeah. And now we're moving on to Paladins.
Oh dear.
This class, this game, I think, has been made better. I used to not really be a fan of Holy Paladins. I didn't used to like Prot, and I really hate Retribution. I think they become a lot more balanced, especially with the way Holy Power procs. I do play a Paladin. In fact, I have a level 62 Protection Retribution Paladin. Do you want to talk through the PvP stuff first?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So it looks like they're going to increase the mana cost of all Holy Paladin spells, which sort of makes sense. I mean, not as bad as Shamans, because I never see Shamans losing mana somehow, but Holy Paladins are a little bit on that side. So they're increasing the mana cost to sort of decrease their stamina, if you will, in arenas and PvP. Looks like Beacon of Light's not going to be able to be dispelled this time, so but they're getting nerfed a little bit because it now transfers 100% of the heal from Holy Light, which is not really your best casting heal, and only 50% from other spells, so that's a tiny bit of a nerf there, guys. In terms of protection, I don't know a lot about protection paladins in PvP, but it looks like that the mana cost has been lowered a little bit. Not a lot of changes there at PvP I can't see, and Retribution is still going to be strong, I think. I mean, I do fear a Retribution Paladin when I come against one in arena.
Yeah, I mean, from a PvP perspective, in terms of a Paladin, the 2 things which have been moaned about since this game came out were Word of Glory, you know, the instant heals,
yeah.
And the instant critical exorcism as well, and it looks like they're doing nothing to change that. You know, Blizzard is sticking by their guns with those 2 abilities, which is nice to see for a change. You know, that yeah, you know,
It seems to me that whenever I play against a Paladin Arena, it seems to be when they pop the cooldowns, they have huge base, and it's like uncontrollable base, you can't heal through it. And after they've got all their cooldowns finished with, they seem to be useless. I mean, they seem to rely on the cooldowns to give out damage, which is quite strange.
I mean, from the protection point, Hammer of the Righteous has had its mana cost reduced slightly, as you were saying, with all abilities. It just makes sense for it to have the same mana cost as Crusader Strike. Not going to step on Tally's toes or anything here, and he knows a lot more about Pally's than I ever could, so let's just move on to Priest then.
I do have a Priest at level 85, but I haven't played him since the release of Cataclysm. Looks like they're getting massive buffs here in Shadow. Massive buffs. So basically all the spells are getting increased. Round Plague 12%, Mind Blast 12%, Shadow with Death 12%, and Shadow with Pain 12%. So it's just crazy. Because I actually have came across a few Shadow Priests, and they do deal out a lot of damage, but mainly it's from Mind Spike. And to be honest, I should really be seeing some nerfs in Mind Spike, because you don't see a lot of them using their dots to their full potential. They just spam Mind Spike all day long.
Yeah, I mean, from PvE perspective here, that this is interesting, because you've always had a joke since vanilla with priests that you are a healer. You know, you've got two specs for healing, you've got discipline, you've got holy. Shadow's just there as flavouring, really. You know, if you're in a serious raiding guild, you're expected as a priest to at least have a healing or spec, which is gonna sort of mean you being a healer. It's really good that they've upped a lot of the damage on Shadow so that a priest can go, hey, you know, stick his middle finger up to the rest of his raid group and go, I can do the same level as DPS or near a level of DPS as a mage or rogue or whatever. You know, it's really good to see from a PvE perspective, because I know that priests really do, in terms of raiding, have that sort of stereotype that they are healers and that is it. You know,
well,
so it's really good to see that they have increased damage. I mean, I've not actually raided with a Shadow Priest, for example, this expansion. You know, just because if we've got priests in the guild, like I say, they are healers. You know, so this may change those sort of people. You know, they may start seeing this and go, I'm going to off-spec Shadow, you know, and I'm going to give it a go. So that is, in
I can't
my mind,
see why they're increasing the dots, because the dots of PvP aren't that powerful. In all honesty, when I play my rogue, recuperate quite often out heals it. But mainly you see a priest and they'll just spam Mind Spike and then use the Mind Spike buff to get a 90% crit, Mind Blast off. And I've seen one of the videos in TGN that someone posted up, and he was controlling his burst and he was using it, and he hit something like a 30k to 35k Mind Blast, and they've increased it by 12% now. So
yeah, I mean, what we might see here is what they did to a warrior ability, which is they kept it the same for PvE, but they changed it for PvP. So you never know. That might be nerfed just purely from a PvP perspective. Don't get me wrong, it's great to see it in PvE.
Yeah.
But are people going to start to whinge and QQ over the boards when this actually goes into effect on PvP? Okay, let's go to rogues next. I have a level 26 rogue, so I'm going to be pretty useless here, I've got to admit.
Yeah, I do have an 85 rogue. To be honest, a little bit of a nerf to some of the cooldowns. Cloak of Shadows is now a 2-minute cooldown for 90 seconds. So that's not the greatest thing in the world, and it also shares cooldowns with combat readiness, so you're going to have to worry about managing those two, especially against melee and spellcasters. You don't want to waste one and then think, oh crap, this warrior's going to beat the hell out of us now I've used Cloak of Shadows and it's sharing a cooldown. So that's something to bear in mind there, guys. The stealth has been fixed now. It was a bit ridiculous. When you cast stealth, the cooldown would actually carry on going when you're in stealth, and you could instantly stealth if you got brought out, which was a little bit of an overpower.
Yeah.
I play subtlety mostly, and hemorrhage is getting a massive 40% buff. Don't really see why that is. And the rest of it really isn't too effective. I think they're trying to promote a little bit more of the assassin PvP, because you don't see any assassination PvP anymore. It's all subtlety. But what are your thoughts on PvE wise, if you have any at all?
I've run with a couple of rogues, and I've run through them in heroics quite a bit, and it might just be the rogues I've run with, but they can't put out like massive numbers.
Yeah.
So again, I think these increases, that we're seeing, are basically to try and sort of deal with that.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, because there probably is rogues out there who are absolutely fantastic in PvE. I'm just saying from my past experience in pickup groups and that sort of thing, they don't seem to do a great deal. In fact, I think in one of my Shaman videos on TGN WoW, I'm actually in a group with a rogue, and I think he's doing 6k DPS with Luck of the Draw as well, which is a 15% damage
Wow,
buff.
that's pretty bad.
So yeah, I think this is to try and get the class up, and Blizzard is doing the usual sort of thing of, we'll up certain abilities, see what difference it makes, we'll test it all out on the PTR before it goes live, and that sort of thing. So yeah, we're going on to a class which I've got a lot to say about now, and that is the Shaman. Yeah, go for it on the PvP front.
Well, yeah, I can't stand shamans. I do actually fear them. Like a lot of people know, I know LoudsCast knows, they don't see a lot of elemental PvP, so I think they're trying to promote that a bit with the Thunderstorm now being able to kite people with a 40% movement duration after it's knocked back, which is quite a good addition. I have no problem with that. But Restoration Shamans, you just cannot kill them in PvP. There's not any nerfs there really significant that's going to affect that. So I don't really know what to think about that. And Enhancement Shamans are getting quite a significant damage increase as well, so we'll see what happens there. I'm probably going to get done all over by Enhancement Shamans in the next patch. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Enhancement Shaman rotation, and you guys have probably seen Enhancement Shaman play, the series I do, it's not the easiest rotation to do just because your global cooldowns are off and that sort of thing, so it's nice to see a few buffs coming in because you do have damage spikes at times, and I think this is a Blizzard's way of sort of trying to get you to a more consistent level of damage like other classes.
Yeah.
So what have we got here? First of all, Fire Nova damage has been increased by 15%. AoE is Enhancement Shaman is ridiculously low at the end of the day. You're not going to out AoE a Boomkin, you're not going to out AoE a Mage, so it's nice to see that that's been increased because that's going to increase your AoE output. Lightning Shield and Water Shield can no longer be dispelled. Again, that's more of a sort of PvP thing. And the big one here is Unleash Wind now deals 175% weapon damage. That is a huge increase. That's a 50% increase on that ability. Storm Strike now deals 225% weapon damage, up from 125%. I can't wait to go into a raid with those two buffs on, and just to see the increased sort of numbers. Elemental, I leveled 80 to 85 as Elemental, and I started doing heroics and I hated it. I've got to admit, it just wasn't the spec for me. And like Arcane, it's got a really simple rotation, but you don't do the damage that Arcane does.
Yeah.
So you've got the lava flows there now grants a 30, 60, 90% haste buff when a flame shock effect is dispelled. That's just
pretty big.
And then you've got that new glyph as well. The glyph of Unleashed Lightning allows lightning bolts to be cast while moving. One of the problems you have as an elemental shaman in PvE is that when you've got to move, you've got to move out the fire, that sort of thing. You lose a lot of DPS just because you're relying on procs, you're relying on a double lava burst to hit, a double lightning bolt to hit. So that's a really good change because a lot of people are going to be taking that glyph both PvP and PvE
yeah, it's
wise.
definitely going to affect PvP. I'm just looking there now, and I'm not going to be dispelling any lava flows. Flame shocks even, sorry.
Yeah.
And Thunderstorm with a little kiting ability there, 40% movement speed, is definitely going to be used to their advantage along with the lightning bolt on the move, so they could be causing problems next patch, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Elemental Shamans are getting quite a few good changes. It's an underplayed spec though.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, they needed to do this, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, so we're now on to Warlocks, and there's not much here, but I think it's quite important, PvP wise.
Sorry, pardon me. Well, only PvP I can really see is the Glyph of Soul Swap now applies a 30-second cooldown to Soul Swap, up from 15. So that's a little bit of a nerf there. Sorry, that's an increase there. And there's not any other changes, to be honest, at all. There's Soul Harvest has a new spell effect, which fantastic for them. Soulfire is now available at level 20. Well, everyone level 85 has Soulfire. That's not going to affect anyone.
Yeah, unless you're leveling a Warlock.
Unless you're leveling a Warlock, like Deadly Slob is right now.
Yeah, so he's going to be happy about that one, definitely. Warlocks, PvE perspective, they work. You know, good dots, you know, Fire Imp, stamina buff. What more can I say? Don't really need a lot changing. Do great DPS. You know, I can see why they've just pretty much sort of left it alone. And finally, guys, we're on to Warriors here. Now, I'm really pleased about one of these changes, and it is a PvP one, but I'll let Sam go ahead first.
I don't play a Warrior. I do have a level 85 Warrior, but I never play him, to be honest. He's just there because he's there. But Relentlessness and Deadly Calm can no longer be used at the same time, so that's going to affect Warriors quite a bit. And Retaliation, Recklessness and Shield Wall no longer have stance requirements. So that is a pretty big change, because they can just pop their one-shot macro without having to go into Berserker stance and activating Recklessness. Shield Wall, if they want to quickly, you know, negate some damage from melee, they can just do that on the bat. But Arms are receiving quite a significant, how can I say this, nerf. 8% weapon damage, that's quite big. I suppose I needed it a little bit. Fuse had a 5% nerf to dual wheel specialization, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, the nerf you just mentioned there, with 200 weapon specialization, at least you're getting something for it, with the Retaliation, Recklessness and Shield Wall being able to use in any stance, which gives you so much freedom. And when I first read this, I was like, yeah, that removes something from my class, you know, it's fun changing stances. But then I realised how much of a pain in the ass it is, you know, in an arena or in a battleground. And no other class really has to do it other than the Druid. Possibly a Paladin to change aura, but other than the Druid, no other class really has to change stance or anything to get to use an ability. So it does make sense that it's there. Okay, so that is all the classes covered. Sam is now going to try not to confuse everyone entirely by going through the currency section, which is to do with the conquest and honor points.
Yeah, so basically you want to spend all your honor points that you've got left over before the patch comes out, because honor that's exceeding the 4k cap will be converted to 35 silver per point. The minimum cap on conquest points per week has been been increased by 7 to 1,350, and the maximum cap is going to be 2,000. It's going to be 3k at a rating of 2.7k. So it's quite an interesting change as well. The rated battlegrounds have a separate sort of conquest cap, if you will, to arenas. So they work in the same way, but the minimum cap for a battleground rating is 1,650. So you can actually go and buy yourself, if that was implemented now, you can actually go and buy yourself a part of your vicious set, gloves or shoulders, straight away by capping them at the minimum cap. And I don't want to go too much else into it because it is very confusing.
I think basically get your conquest point cap, get your honor point cap, get your valor point cap, get all your caps before the patch comes out, because good things are going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it can basically be summed up as, so we've got I think a week till the next patch, so you're probably a bit bored, you know. I know grinding can be annoying and all the rest, but you're definitely going to reap the rewards if you cap all those off. And the last thing we're going to talk about here, guys, is the dungeon and raid nerfs. Yeah, basically Blizzard has released a new tier of content. So like in Wrath of the Lich King, which a few of us raiders voiced our opinion about, they decided to nerf all the previous raiding content. Now I can understand if you're not a big raider or anything, it gives you a chance to see the content and everything like that, but I hate it when Blizzard does this, because it makes me think all those wipes that I did on Cho'Gall, all those wipes I did on Nefarian were for nothing, because you've nerfed the content down now, so I could have just gone and done it when you decided to nerf it. But it's understandable, because at the end of the day some people aren't in raiding guilds and that sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, this change does help me quite a bit, so I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I was going to say, from a PvP perspective, and that's going to be a good point, is that the weapon, the PvP weapon, you can't get it until you get a certain amount of conquest points.
Yeah, that's crap. So when Season 10 comes out, as you know, Season 9 weapons are going to be available by honor points. But even still, if you want a Season 9 weapon in Season 10, you're going to need to accumulate 18.5k honor points during the season before you can even purchase it. And the same goes for the Conquest for the Ruthless set. Before you can get a weapon, you're going to have to accumulate 11.6k Conquest points during Season 10. So that's going to take weeks before you can even get a weapon, so you're going to be wanting to raid to get the weapons there, guys.
Yeah, people are going to be doing the old raiding concept. They're going to be doing Firelands just to get the weapon, I'm imagining, for PvP, until they can sort of reach that cap. Am I right in thinking there's been a new arena, or an old arena that's
Ring
come
of
back?
Valor. That was a great arena as well. You used to start off in 2 elevators, and you used to walk up, and it was like one of the only arenas that was interactive, that had like moving firewalls and stuff like that. They took it out. I don't know why they took it out, but they're reinventing it without the elevators, and it's going to be put back in the rotation, so that achievement is actually going to be able to be attainable this time.
And do you do rated battlegrounds at all? Because as War Games interface has improved, it doesn't exactly say how it's been improved, but
yeah, I haven't done a lot of rated battlegrounds in this patch at all. I mainly stick to arenas and standard battlegrounds, mainly because I haven't got a guild to do rated battlegrounds with, but I have got the right gear to do it.
Okay, just quickly here, just before we finish up, quests and creatures. There are no longer oddities in critical strike and dodge chance of lower level creatures. Okay, I've never noticed that, but someone obviously has, quite a few people obviously have, or Blizzard have. And okay, races. All races now have a /raw sound. Yes, indeed, folks. You type /raw, and your character will roar. I think Blizzard's got too many people on the payroll. You know, let's give someone something to do. That sort of thing. And user interface. I understand that Blizzard's trying to give more functionality to their default UI and this sort of thing. And this is basically what all this is sort of about. Feel free to read through it, guys. It will be in the description below, all the sort of patch notes. And basically there's a technical fix as well, and that's pretty much it, guys. We've covered a lot of stuff. I hope we sent none of you to sleep. you enjoyed this video. Thumbs it up, comment your thoughts on patch 4.2, all that sort of good stuff. I will read them all, and thanks for watching.
Yep, see you later, guys.
Bye.